What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode number 46 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Rissotto, and today we are joined by a very, very special guest, Darcy Soga. I almost said Dorothy. Darcy's in the house, and Darcy.
Better than Dorothy.
Yes, for sure. You guys could follow her on Twitter. At. You want to guess the handle? Darcy Soga. So it's her name. And she's the host of Playing the Field podcast, formerly at BA Giants Nation on Twitter. She's a Chico State alumni. And at this point, I'm just going down her Twitter bio. But she's here with us, Darcy, to talk some baseball, to talk some sports. Darcy, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
I'm doing very well, of course. Making the most of what we can during COVID times. We're kind of getting to the tail end of it a little bit, and our vaccines are starting to get kind of distributed a little bit. Mm-hmm. How has your COVID experience been? Because I know it's been different for everybody. I know people have picked up on like new hobbies. They're doing new stuff. What has kind of your life been like since the pandemic hit?
Oh, it's just funny because I've actually been listening to a lot of your podcasts lately, and I know that you asked people that. So I was like, oh, if I was ever on it, I don't know what he would ask me. But actually, well, the first thing I actually started and have been like committed to was my podcast. I started that on February 12th of last year. So it was like right at the beginning of COVID. And so I've been doing that. I've been a little wishy-washy on how regular I've been with it, but I think it's because I'm still somewhat unsure of the specific direction I want to take it in. So anyway, enough about that. But so I've been doing that mostly, and I moved recently too. So that was interesting, moving during COVID and starting a new job during COVID and having to learn how to work in different environments during COVID is really interesting. So I've really mostly just been working pretty committedly because I know that's different because a lot of people are out of work, so I definitely feel lucky to be working right now, but it's different for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I work in hospitality, so it's like every job's really hard right now, but I'm not saying it's hard, it's just really odd.
Mm-hmm. And in hospitality, you're finding yourself having to please everybody. Like that's the point of your job. So are people like more unhappy than they've ever been, or is it just kind of like normal, or have they just gotten used to it?
Yeah, I was just about to say, it seems like people are way more insatiable and unpleasable right now. I think it's just because people are like finally choosing like when they want to leave the house, and like they feel like they don't really have that choice, so they want to like be in control now of what's happening like when they leave the house. And so I actually work at a hotel right now, so that's even more interesting because people have like never stayed anywhere where there's like COVID guidelines now, and where certain things aren't available to them like that they normally would be, and just like even checking in is weird, like only one person can be in the lobby at a time, and like I don't know. So I was bartending before this too, and so that was like a whole other thing. But yeah, that's a whole different experience, I'm sure.
Not there yet. I have a few more years, but maybe I'll join you one of these days. No, but let's talk about your podcast. How did you kind of start it? What was your motive behind it? I'm always interested to hear, because I know I started mine because I was flat out bored. I had nothing to do. I really wanted to like get the social aspect back that I was missing with COVID. So why did you kind of, decide to start your own podcast?
So this is kind of a fun story. So I was trying to think about how I started it the other day, because I knew that I started it in February of last year, and then I was scrolling through my timeline, and because I was actually reposting old pictures from FanFest from before the baseball season last year, and it was literally the day after FanFest. I was like, I'm doing this. I was like, I don't know like if it's gonna go well. Like I know it's gonna be about baseball, and I like thought of my clever little name for it, and then it turns out it wasn't that clever because there's a couple other baseball podcasts called Playing the Field, so I just added my name at the end of it. But so I went to FanFest, and I was just like I told you earlier, I used to study journalism in college as like a minor, and I had just started tweeting for BA Giants Nation around then, and I like have like a happy medium between like I feel like tweeting isn't enough, but then like being a journalist is like out of my league because that's not what I'm doing. So I was like, okay, what is like a like happy medium and like a good platform in between the two where like it's a little more serious, but it's like I'm not going to be considered a total joke. Like so podcasts are a little more personal, and I think it's a little more like free form, and you can kind of, so like mine hasn't always been about baseball, and like it started that way, but I kind of just made it about whatever because I was getting good feedback either way. And so like once it was just trying different things with it and just like checking my interactions and like how it was going, I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep doing it how I'm doing it because it's doing okay right now. So
Yeah,
I
it's
get
definitely
excited when anybody listens to it. I literally get excited when anybody listens to it. So like, I don't know, you know, if my opinions about it are exactly valid, but
yeah, no, it's very good. It's very good. And I know it's very hard to like make a podcast successful because there's just so many. Like everybody feels like they have to have a podcast, and it's so hard to like differentiate, and it's like not fair because like networks have podcasts and like they have funding and they have connections, and but you know we're here in the lower level of the podcast world, and we're thriving. Shout out to your podcast. Shout out to, I know, Say Hey Doug and Say Hey Rob. Have a great one going on there. Shout out to them, and appreciate your input. Coming soon with Taylor Worth and a few other guys. We're excited about that one, of course. So we'll plug those more when the time comes. Yeah, we'll see how they compete with us for sure. Next thing I wanted to ask you is, how did you kind of become a baseball fan? I know everybody has again, this is the thing where everybody has their own story. It's a lot of fun to kind of reminisce about how you got involved. So what was kind of your story about becoming a baseball fan?
So I was definitely born into it for sure. My, especially it's more my mom's side of the family. My mom's side of the family, like diehard Giants fans, except for my oldest brother. He's an A's fan. So I don't know what's going on with that and Raiders. So anyway, but everyone on my mom's side of the family is like really dedicated 49ers and Giants fans. So I was like brought in, like definitely born into it. Like the first games that I went to were when AT&T Park was called Pac Bell Park, and like other names for it and stuff when I was really little. And I think it was just like a way to connect with my family, like definitely since I was little, and I reconnected with it like a few years ago. And once I started, I think, reconnecting with even like with my family a little more, like after I graduated college, and I started going to games a lot more again because I was like out of my little bubble of being in college and focusing on that. So I was like started getting really into going to games again and like having that independence of like wanting to go on my own. And then I like was showing it to other people for the first time. And so then once I started like seeing how other people were like, especially for example, like one of my best friends, Vanessa, I like started taking her to baseball games last year, and she's like loves it now, and she's a big Giants fan, and she's from San Diego, so she has every reason not to be right now. But she is, so it's great, and I love that. So being able to show it to somebody else too, like, has definitely helped keep me like in the loop, I would say.
Yeah, that's really awesome. See, you are giving baseball extra fans. That's pretty awesome. Love to see it.
We do.
Speaking of baseball, it is coming back. The return of baseball. By the time this is out, spring training games are kind of already being played, and that's pretty awesome. It's so happy that we're trying to get a full season in of baseball after the 60-game sprint last year. So what are you excited about most? What are some of the things that you're most excited about as we kind of kick off the baseball season?
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely I'm excited to see, like, I mean, I definitely talked about this in my podcast, but like I didn't really understand like the importance of prospects, I think, until like the last couple of years, and we've been getting such great ones. So I've just been like, and I'm from Davis, which is right next to Sacramento, so I and like I wasn't even really into going to RiverCats games really until the last couple of years, and they're so fun. Like AAA games are so much fun to go to, and it's really fun being, and like they were the champions last year, so that was like even cooler. And so yeah, being like getting into like being more involved in like player history, and also like people that are coming up who like we don't know is super cool, because I was such a Barry Bonds fan when I was little, and now I'm just like, oh, like I love like, Jalen Davis, like he's like one of my favorite players. And like or just really like younger guys who get like their first big looks in the big leagues, like Mauricio Dubon. Like I had a really fun time watching him last year. So I think I'm definitely excited about mostly prospects for sure. I love yeah, up and comers and people we don't know. That's always fun to learn about.
Yeah, and everybody kind of has their own story in terms of prospects. Some are, of course, the really well-known ones, and then there's some like weird, cool facts about like the non-prospects that I feel we could all get behind, and it's just such a good like rooting story kind of thing. So the Giants, let's talk about the Giants here. We're getting ready for another year. They were one game away from making the expanded postseason last year, of course.
I know.
And now here we are again. Gabe Kapler's kind of first full year. I would consider this as, maybe I don't know.
First year, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I would consider it, but he's still new, I think. I mean, fans have not seen him yet in the ballpark, so I would consider that new, pandemic or not.
Mm-hmm.
So what are kind of your expectations this year in terms of the Giants? What are you excited about to see the most? I know, I guess I could start off. Buster Posey's coming back. He is back.
We love that.
Who knows what his future is, but we get to see another year of him, and I think that's pretty awesome to see what he has left in the tank. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most. What about you?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. What am I most excited about? I think I'm most excited to, I know this sounds really weird, but I think I'm most excited to see kind of where like some of the older guys that have like kind of like been on the hush about like this possibly being their last season. I love stuff like that. Like I love kind of not being in the know. But I'm just excited to see like what kind of effort they put out this season. Brandon Belt was kind of an interesting one to watch. So, because I think, I don't know, I wasn't super into him last season, but so I'm just excited to see like the Brandons, like you said, Buster Posey, and some of those guys from like the glory days, kind of seeing what they put out if this is going to be their last season. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, all those guys are gone. All those guys from the glory days are they're not
I know, dude. Saying bye to Hunter Pence and Pablo Sandoval last season was hard, but I was like, we got to do it. It's time to.
Yeah,
it's time, because I like, and I talked about this in my podcast too. I was like, I'm all for the rebuild. So like, a lot of people are kind of like, or not a lot, but like I would say like older fans, I think, if I'm gonna be really specific, are like, this isn't the Giants that I know and love, blah 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 blah.
The boomers.
Yeah, those guys. Or yes, those people. But yes, exactly.
Yeah, the boomers. Yeah, they're nobody's going to be happy. I mean, nobody's going to be happy. The Giants, I mean,
they never are.
They never are. Twitter's never happy. Social media is never happy. I mean, the Giants spent $61 million this offseason. It doesn't feel like it because they're.
That's what I was talking about too. I was like, and then someone replied to them. They're like, to the Giants, like, when did the Giants become such cheapskates? And I was like, what?
Like, it might not sound like it because they got a ton of like they used that $61 million on like a lot of different players instead of like
a couple.
Trevor Bauer and like two other guys. So it doesn't feel like they spent that much for sure. What do you think about COVID with playing baseball and COVID? I mean, these guys have to go through a lot of, big stretch of different protocols,
Yeah.
They can't leave. They can't do some other things. I think golfing is like the only thing allowed, like randomly golfing. So
and it's interesting because so many of them are like really into it. So, I mean, I'm not a huge golf fan, but it's interesting to hear because I listen to a lot of podcasts, other baseball podcasts, and a lot of guys, especially like professional journalists, will be like, "So, you've been working on your golf game lately?" And I'm like, "This is just like what they do in Arizona."
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's somebody in the league office that made like the protocols. must like golfing, because that's literally, I was listening to today on MLB Network. They had a guest on, I forget who it was, and they said, yeah, the only thing we're allowed to do is golf. So
Interesting.
they're very, I mean, I guess it's not like baseball, but I mean, it's a relaxed type thing. So would you go into ballpark like right now, like if you were able to? Would you be like the first one to buy a ticket, or would you still kind of be hesitant because of the pandemic?
Well, it's interesting because like they have like vouchers available,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of more like I want to know like if I'm going or not. And I don't know where that money's going. Like if it's not actually going to be for a ticket and it's not like I don't want to support my team, I'm like, whatever, just take $75 for these 3 vouchers and that's fine. So it's interesting because I haven't bought a ticket, so I would sound like a hypocrite if I was like, yes, I would totally be the first one to buy a ticket. But I would definitely go. Yeah, I don't have like any issue with that really whatsoever, but I have different feelings about COVID, I guess. So, and I also think a lot of people have made exceptions for things that they like doing. Like I said, it's even interesting. Like I work at a hotel and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I would be doing like that much during COVID, but I would totally go to a baseball game. So
Why are you staying here? Go home. Is that
yeah,
what you're...
like, I don't know about this. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But I would be there in a heartbeat. I
Yeah,
don't have any qualms
I want to
about
get
that.
your take on this, because I was saying it earlier. On my bucket list, I want to be in McCovey Cove, like just for a game, just to experience it. Is that something that you've ever done, or like is that something that you would want to do?
I don't know if I've ever done that. I not as like an adult like that I would remember. That kind of seems like something that like my family would do, to be honest. So like it wouldn't really surprise me if I had done that when I was younger and not remembered it. But I mean, like, I think the experience always looks really fun. I mean, seeing like Hunter Pence go out there with his wife and they were all like hanging out and like with, Dave, like, okay,
Love
one of like
him.
my favorite people on Twitter and just in general. So I think it's just like a whole different experience, but I think that like, I think that's, I don't know, a lot of people seem like those are just like different kind of fans, I think, who are just like don't need to be inside the park, but I would much rather be in like inside the park, I think.
Yeah,
But
I probably
I
would
would go,
too.
I would go to McCovey Cove for sure.
Yeah, and Dave, Dave's a stud. Dave, I interviewed McCovey Cove Dave for a blog post. And he's actually, so at the beginning of the podcast, I wrote down like a ton of people that I wanted on. It's like 3 pages long. And Dave is under like, so there's media, like players, minor league players, and then there's other. And Dave is like the first name on other.
He's great.
He's great. Yeah, and after the interview I did with him on my blog, he said, "Hey, anytime you want to come out." So maybe I'll try and hit him up. If not, I know there's a kayak rent place down from
Yeah.
down from the bay there. So we'll have to check it out for sure.
Yeah,
Could be
absolutely.
a cool thing. So with baseball coming back, we saw last year some new rules in place, and in preparation for this podcast, you assured me that you have some boiling hot takes. So
I don't know about boiling, but
yeah, let's start with the universal DH, because for one, I like it. Where do you stand with the universal DH?
like you like no universal DH or you like having one?
I like having one.
Okay, yeah, I like having one.
Okay, good.
We're like, okay, good. We still like each other.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to showcase a couple different players' talents. Because I think a lot of them don't always get to showcase that. Like I think, okay, big one, Donovan Solano doesn't always get to showcase his talent at second base, but he can really put it out there at bat when he's the universal DH. And like, I think we all know that, but I think some people have a hard time admitting that. I'm a really big fan of him. So that definitely bumps me out. But he's, like he said, even after that whole arbitration case thing, he's still saying he's really excited to be back, and he knows that that's not really going to be a thing. So I'm sad about that, but because I like having one too. So I think that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I wish it's a part of the future. I think people need to come to the conclusions that pitchers just can't hit. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
select few that can. Like we saw Madison Bumgarner for years just rake,
Breaking.
raking, just dominating pitching. I guess Bartolo Colon hitting a home run was really fun. But it's just they're not, and I think baseball needs as much action as possible, and a pitcher striking out is not
This is
good.
not what we wanted. We don't love to see that at all. Like,
No.
I don't want to see people bunting. I just don't. I don't care.
Yeah, I could go either way on that one.
It's cool when it works.
Yeah, it's cool for I guess pitchers would be the only ones that I'd bunt, but you're basically you don't have many outs in the first place. Like there's only 27 outs. Giving up one, you really have to be sure that you're going to score a run. So
Yeah.
it's very risky to lay down those sack bunts. And another rule that we had was, of course, the extra innings with a runner on second base. And this is something weird kind of story flashback here, but I played tournament baseball last summer, not 2020 summer, but 2019 summer. It almost feels like we lost a year. Like last year feels like 2019 still.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So, and when we would get to, because we only play 7 at 18U, or was it 21U? I don't know what it was, but we would be tied up and we would have to go into extra innings with a guy starting at second base. And we would score, they would score. We would score, they would score. And it was like a matter of who played like the best fundamental baseball. And I thought it was really fun. So at the beginning, I supported it. And then when I saw it play in like Major League Baseball, I was like, God,
then you're
no.
like, wait, I hate this.
This sucks. Like it's literally travel baseball rules being brought to Major League Baseball. Like it shouldn't happen. And if it does happen, I mean, at least like nobody wants to see 18 inning games. Maybe people do. Like I don't want to.
We watched a lot of them last year.
Yeah, yeah. Like, do you like the 18 inning games? Like, would you stay up all night to watch one?
I did.
You did. Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, but like I have the time, so I mean, but it's like you don't want to stay awake on like a Tuesday night or like whatever a couple nights a week in our case, like our team,
Yeah.
and watch that all the time. I mean, sometimes it was like fun the first couple of times because like the adrenaline's going, and like especially if you're at home watching it too, you're like feeding off whatever energy you have like can get because you're not there, so you're like feeding off the fact that I like think it's really exciting sometimes when you go into extra innings, but then when you're getting into like deep double digits, anything past 15, I'm just like, okay, I don't like. And we went past 15 like multiple times, so it's like this is getting rough. It's like midnight and I don't know if I care about this anymore.
Yeah, it's like 3 a.m. Oh God, I gotta deal with the people at the hotel tomorrow.
No,
So,
I like it's just literally it's.
So do you like that rule?
Runner starting on second?
Yeah.
It's hard, like I said, it's hard to say in our case because in our case it just never goes well. Or sometimes like we were going just like back and forth for a really long time because I think we do get really competitive when it does get cut down to the wire. I think our team's main concern for the most part is about trying to play really good baseball and not necessarily always be competitive. It's more like competitive with themselves. And then I think they start getting really competitive when it gets to close to extra innings and when it's like, a 1-run game or whatever. So I hate it.
That was like a long explanation. I hate it.
I just hate it. Yeah, I know that was really long. I talk way too much.
Well, it's a podcast, so I guess we could do that. Yeah, I don't know. Just believe me, you spend so much hours talking on your podcast. I've spent so much time talking on mine. People are probably sick of us, and we don't even know it.
I know. I'm just like, hopefully, I know. Like I said, it was like the 1-year anniversary of my podcast, like a week ago or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put out 2 episodes in 2 days. But I think that's just how much I actually enjoy it, and I just really don't care. I don't think it's that serious. for some people it is really serious, and I appreciate that. And like, you know, maybe if it was like my job, it would be totally different, but I just enjoy it right now. And like, I've definitely heard you talk about that before. Like, you know, I just actually really enjoy this and I have fun doing it. And I totally agree. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning when I started this. I told myself, because I've tried starting a podcast before, and like I always looked at like listens, like number of listens, and I told myself, I was like, I'm not gonna look at the analytics, because you know, the people that look at them and say, oh, I'm not getting viewership, oh, I quit. Like, if you have fun with it, there's no reason to quit. So that's kind of
Yeah.
my take on that. What other rules did you kind of have hot takes about? What other rules were kind of stood out to you in terms of the future of baseball?
Requiring neutral sites for postseason games.
Oh yeah, let's
and
talk about that.
If necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have mixed feelings about it, because I feel like that takes a lot of like I like watching our teams play. Like, I'm a kind of a big off-season fan of the Cardinals for some reason. I don't know why. So I like watching them play. But so like I think not playing, or the possibility of not playing teams, or like, yeah, being like in a league with only like a couple instead of playing teams that are like farther away, and that are like way different, way like comparably different, like competition wise. That kind of bums me out, because I like when we go up against guys like that. So I think I don't know if that rule exactly means that, but I think the possibility of also being able to see less games like in person, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, because I know we saw it for the World Series with, is this Mike? I think this Mike's. I'm questioning my mic here. Yeah, I'm wondering, it might be the headphones, but yeah, I think I don't know what it is. Neutral sites. We saw it for the World Series, and with Arlington, you know, Texas kind of being the host city for the World Series. I think it takes away a ton for like I can't, like, for example, if the Giants are in the World Series again, I can't imagine a game not being even held in San Francisco. Like, that's not fair to the fans that have been there the entire season, and now all of a sudden they don't get to watch the World Series because the league doesn't want to have them travel. So I don't know. I could probably do without that. I agree with you.
Yeah, it was like not a super big one, but it was definitely one that I had written down that I was like, I don't really know how I feel about that. I hated I hate the Astros stadium. I hate indoor stadiums. So like, if that ever happened, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that.
I've never been to one. So I have only been to California ballparks. So I've been to Oracle. I guess this could be our next question. I've been to Oracle, Oakland, Anaheim, Petco. Have not been to Dodger Stadium, even though I've driven by it dozens of times. But I've never been to an indoor stadium. Like, I wonder what the like feeling is. I know there's air conditioning. That's weird that like you're playing baseball and you hear the air conditioning on, and there's kind of like a draft. So where do I want to segue this?
Yeah, I feel like I tweeted like some hot takes about the Astros Stadium last year in the World Series, because watching it, I was like, oh, it's just like so obnoxious, and like it feels like so not natural to me. They had like flashing like strobe lights, which I hate, and like the loud like alarm sound whenever someone hits a home run. It's like so obnoxious, and I'm like,
the train.
This seems like the worst like concert ever. Like, I'm just like, I don't know what this is, and I hate it. I don't know why, but yeah, I could do without that.
What ballparks have you been to?
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I think I've only like been to games inside Oracle Park. I've been outside of Yankee Stadium, and me and my oldest brother took a picture of us flipping it off. It's in the Bronx. I was in high school, and we thought it was really funny.
Because like the Yankees are like universally hated among all baseball fans for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It was a weird like rivalry moment, but it was like it was more for my brother, just he's an A's fan, and he used to go to a lot of A's games there against the Yankees, and I was like, this is fun. I like this.
Yeah.
like this little rivalry thing. I like stirring the pot sometimes. I don't know, like I did earlier, so it's fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's talk about the names on the back of the jerseys because this is something we added in very last minute. We were like, okay, we have to talk about this, and
Yeah.
we do. And it's something. Okay, here we go. Now I hear myself on this. Um, it's something like so interesting that, like on the what am I trying to say here? For a casual baseball fan, like it might not seem like a big deal, but like at Oracle Park, we're so used to seeing no names on the back of the jerseys because we just know who people are.
Yeah.
It's for the home team fans to understand and be familiar with the players. So, what's kind of your thoughts? Do you like the move to kind of have the jersey names on the back?
Yeah, so I actually was reading this article by Kerry Crowley, who's like one of my favorite.
Love him.
Yeah,
Yes.
we love him. And he had an article about that, and he was talking about how it's kind of introducing like a new era of fans, which I thought was really interesting because he was, I forget who he was talking. I think it was like the director of operations or something like that of baseball, and it was on the radio, and I actually listened to the interview, and they were talking about how like someone like last year, like this guy was walking past like these fans, I think at FanFest, and one of the fans was like, oh, it's number 8, and he was like, oh yeah, like I love number 8, he's my favorite, and then but like he didn't like know the person's name, and it was just like a little kid. So we don't expect them to know, but like I think that's really cool because I think it does, like, I mean, especially like we've seen a lot of younger people, especially like on Twitter, who are like have stand accounts for these people, but like I think there's also a huge part of the fan base who like has no idea who these people are. And like I said earlier too, I think it's really cool to see a lot of these prospects come up and like younger guys who we don't know. So I think it's a really cool way to like get to know people who you wouldn't normally maybe follow because you don't associate it with a number that you're already thinking of. You just like you see them and you see like their name on the back of their jersey and you're like, oh, I have to know more. So that's kind of how I think about that. So I like it. I think it's important because I think associating like, it makes players more human. Like those are people too. It's not just number 8 or number 13.
Yeah,
Or
it's
number
not just a number. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're people too. But I think it's a cool way to interact with our fans and kind of help everybody kind of be like on a more level playing field.
Yeah, and you mentioned FanFest earlier, and I haven't gone to like the past 4 of them because I've always had baseball on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
So FanFest is interesting because there's like number 65 or something walking around like from tent to tent, and these fans are like, who's number 65? It's like some generic white guy. So it's now we're gonna get to know who that is because there's a number on the back. So
Yeah.
I honestly, the people that are getting mad about that, like, chill down a little bit. It's just,
Yes.
it literally
Too
has
much.
no effect on your life whatsoever.
No.
Like,
Or playing like
mhm,
whatsoever. I'm like, this doesn't even affect the things that we actually are like care about
mhm.
that are important, like how our players are playing. Like what? I don't
and
understand.
and like the numbers have had the player's name on the jersey in the dugout stores for years. So like
Yeah.
it's I mean, it's not even going to look drastically different on the jersey. So I mean, people got
Yeah,
to,
if anything, it looks more appropriate, I would
yeah,
think.
for sure. Because I know the away jerseys have it, and um, we're just gonna get to see the name Yastrzemski a lot more.
You'll learn
And
how to spell it. Gosh darn it.
exactly, we'll learn how to spell it. And honestly, like long last names look not like significantly long last names where like it's like going off to but like long last names in terms of Yastrzemski is like perfect. Like
Yes,
Yastrzemski looks very good on the back of a jersey.
it does.
So we like the names on the back of the jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's talk about baseball. I guess we could end it on like baseball marketing because baseball, like it looks so like I know a friend that doesn't watch baseball because it's boring and that it's too long. That's the excuse that
Yeah,
you and I hear all the time from non-baseball fans. How do you
yeah.
think baseball can compete with football, the NBA? We're definitely better than hockey. I don't care what anybody says.
find it so interesting that so many baseball fans are hockey fans. I'm like, I can't relate.
Like,
but,
what?
Oh.
How does anybody even follow that sport? It's such a and making a lot of people mad here.
Well, I mean, okay, like I live up in Tahoe, and they didn't even have the closest team to me playing up there. That makes no sense. Like, I'm not a hockey fan, and that just and people are upset about that, and I would be too. Like, what's the point? Who, like, I don't know, whatever.
Have a baseball game in Tahoe. I mean, let's get baseball in the snow. Hockey's just like a different level of like, who cares? Like, I mean, MLB Network is on like the same channel, or is like a channel away from. No, NHL Network is on like a channel away from MLB Network.
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, I always like turn on the TV and it's NHL Network. Like I must have hit the button down or something. So like I see a little bit of what they're talking about, and it's like, God, I don't know how people could follow this sport. But yeah, me ripping hockey is definitely something that should be watched. I'm gonna get canceled for that, but hopefully nobody. Well, hopefully people listen until this point. But you know, I almost said hopefully people don't listen until this point. But my original question was, how do you think baseball can, you know, maybe get more popular among some sports fans?
I think having more like interactive events like Fan Fest more than just once a year, I think kind of focusing on like events is really cool that are like fans are able to be more accessible to, not just like going to games. Because a lot of games are during the week and people can't always do that. So people miss a lot of actually like being a fan and like working a 9-to-5 job. So I don't know. I think that would be cool to see. I also like throwing events. So like I like that would be cool if like I ever even got involved that one day. I don't know how I would do it, but so I think that's would be cool. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it needs to be more fun, like baseball, because we watch basketball and there's some other things that play into it that I'll get to in a second. But baseball, like, it's such a serious game, you know. Like you turn on basketball and guys are trash talking and they're having fun.
Yeah.
You turn on football and football's serious, but I mean, there's also a fun element to it. You watch baseball and like if you bat flip, you get hit the next time up. So, I mean, there's a very old school tradition to it.
I love bat flipping.
I do too. I think it's cool, and I think like it's fair. I mean, if a pitcher strikes a hitter out, like then they should be able to fist pump while walking off the mound. Like that's the trade-off. Bat flips for fist pump. You got me, I got you. So that's what I think. Cool. And I also think that like baseball needs to appeal more to the inner cities. Like there's not a ton of African Americans in baseball. It's great that we're very big international, like in
like
you know,
in Japan.
In Japan and the islands, the Dominican. We now have like a face of baseball in Fernando Tatis that represents kind of the Latino baseball men there. So he could kind of go both ways. That's pretty awesome. But it's just too expensive too. It's way too expensive to play. I mean, gloves are like, if you want like a really, really nice glove as like a, you know, preteen or whatever, you're going to spend like $300 and you're going to spend like $400 on a bat. It's ridiculous. And here's one thing that makes me really mad. MLB TV's blackout rule. Give me a break.
I
the blackout rule.
I hate that. I also think going to a park is way too inaccessible for people. Like I think it's just really like expensive. Like even like I know tickets used to be like way cheaper when I was younger, and like even just like nosebleed tickets and stuff like are not and I know that's not just our park. So I think like you said, just
and
like
food needs to be
cheaper. And that's what I mean. Like going, exactly. Oh my God, I don't want to pay $8.50 for a pretzel, no matter how bad I want one. But yeah, so I definitely kind of agree with that. It just needs to be more accessible to more people, and I think people would be more interested in it if it just like if it wasn't. It's just associated, I think, with being like an old, super conservative sport that has lots of rules that are old and that will never change. So, I mean, like, albeit a lot of these rule changes are kind of trash, like, it's definitely shaking things up and kind of getting more people involved and having opinions. And, you know, people who are fans of different teams have different opinions. People who are the fans of the same team have different opinions, as you and I both know. So, yeah.
Yeah, the MLB.TV thing, I don't have it because, you know, of
Neither
course,
do I.
I have cable, but I do know that like there's people that buy MLB.TV just to watch their team. And sometimes they can't watch it because they're blacked out. Like, it's ridiculous. And I think the majority of people that buy that package, like, for their team, they use it for their team.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
and
definitely dedicated.
yeah, and thank God, you know, most ballparks let you bring in food. Like, thank God, because I mean, you'd be spending like with the ticket, you'd be spending like
Oh, it's like,
$7 on the whole event, even more.
yeah, more for sure.
It's unbelievable. So that needs to be fixed for sure.
I was gonna say something. Oh, yeah, I'm like really into how like the Giants have been live streaming practice on YouTube. Like, I don't like we could do that and you could still make money off of it. Like, people are still like, that's how most people are making money, is off of streaming services. So like, it was really cool to be able to like turn on my smart TV the other day, or I don't have a smart TV, I have Roku, and like go to YouTube and just watch practice. And like, I thought that was really fun, and I like definitely think we should do more of that. Like, that's definitely going to be a huge way to like get new fans in, and like especially younger fans, and just more fans in general. And I think you're still going to be making money off it. It's not like YouTube is free, but
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I have two other things that I think you'll agree with me on here. Well, so I have one of I have one of them, but I was gonna save that one for last because it's such a good idea that I just came up with right now. Um, First of all, Mike. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. It was kind of a combination of the two. Players that are mic'd up, like, that is
I love
cool.
that.
People like that, right? People like watching the video of them mic'd up, of the moans and groans of a baseball game, you know, and it's fun to listen to what goes on in the field.
Yes.
And what would be really awesome, and this would never happen because of, you know, MLB would never allow it because that would be exposing too much. But what if there's just an audio version of the game, like streamed on like HBO or something, so you could get the cuss words in, of course, and you just hear raw, like the field raw, just nothing else.
I forgot who it was last season, but I do remember that. I don't remember who that was, and it was someone, I think it was from a different team, who said something like really out of pocket when he was mic'd up, and it was like really like, I mean, I don't.
Oh, it could be a problem for sure.
Yeah, no, it's super problematic, but I love that. So it's like, whatever. I think that's super real. I mean, like, NBA players and football players say way worse things when they're being interviewed. So whatever.
Yeah, that maybe it would be it would be too problematic. So maybe that was. And another thing I
I'm
really
all for
like.
it though.
Yeah, I would watch it. I mean, it would be problematic, but I would watch it because we like
That's what
chaos
I love
and we
that.
like watching people, you know, not embarrass themselves, but be kind of
Or
rebellious.
just be a human. Like, you don't have, I don't think baseball is like, has a lot of emphasis on like people needing to be perfect all the time and getting overanalyzed when they're not. So I think if we just like made baseball more human and not so like rigid and like uptight, that it would be way more fun and people would be way more into it. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the activity of making baseball players more human is something that needs to happen, besides just putting the names on the back of jerseys.
Yeah, and the players would be like, it would be problematic in a sense that like players that like you would think are like the most purest player, like Mauricio Dubon, like in our view and in baseball fans' view, the guy could literally not make a mistake. He's an angel. He, you know, the only thing missing is a halo over his head, right? And like we hear this guy talking trash, like if we hear him talking trash, like he would get canceled, and I don't think any of us want that. But you mentioned player interaction, and I think that is the most important thing in sports. And I know a lot of players have like Cameo accounts and stuff, but when you're charging $500 for like a 1-minute video message, I think you could probably just delete the account because nobody's paying for that.
Oh
So
my gosh. I mean, people are really going to start charging $5 for tweets. Like, I'm not here for it.
yeah, that's a one-way ticket to get unfollowed by me. So, but yeah, so baseball, step it up, remove the blackouts, get
Mm-hmm.
some more guys mic'd up. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
don't take my advice because you're gonna get in trouble. But
Me neither.
we like the players in their jerseys. We're excited for
Yep.
baseball.
Yep.
Darcy, I appreciate you joining me. This was a lot of fun.
I appreciate you.
A very fun episode. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. Thank you.
You guys could, of course, follow Darcy on Twitter at Darcy Soga, DarcySoga. Soga. And you guys can find her playing the field with Darcy. Of course, her podcast is on Anchor. It's also pinned to her Twitter. So yeah, check her on as I'm trying to fill up some words here to end the show. And you guys can follow the podcast, of course, on Twitter
Yes.
at RizzoCast.
At RizzoCast. That's the main plug.
Yes, main plug. Subscribe, like, listen, wherever you're listening or watching, for sure. Social media. I'm introducing a new thing on social media. I'll probably, because I just uploaded the first one, where I go on Baseball Reference and I try and guess who is on. There's usually every day there's a thing of 12 people of former players, and I have to guess each one of them. So that could be a cool little daily thing that I do.
Oh, I like that.
A lot of fun. Again,
Yeah.
Shout out to Darcy for joining me. This was a fun show, and enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Stay safe, and see you next time.
Okay, bye. Thank you.